Welcome back to Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance. So this time
Let's actually begin playing the game.
Yes, so we have arcade versus practice, conquest, but we're only going to talk about conquest later. For now, let's take a look at practice real quick, because Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance plays differently from the previous 4 games. Specifically, like I said, it's the first 3D Mortal Kombat game. Which means there's some new aspects of the gameplay to take into account.
Which is weird, because...
Yes, Robert?
Which is weird, like, some might consider Mortal Kombat 4 technically the first ever 3D game,
Robert.
but...
He's talking more about in a sense that he plays more similar to stuff like Tekken and Soul Calibur.
By 3D, I mean the gameplay is in 3D, see?
If you move in the third dimension.
And yes, for those of you more recent fans, you may be confused, but yeah, believe it or not, there was a time where Mortal Kombat worked in all the dimensions as opposed to just on a 2D plane.
Basically, 4 had 3D graphics, but it's still the gameplay was still on a 2D plane. Much like the Mortal Kombat games post Armageddon, basically.
So Pedro, our audience are probably wondering, but SCWRM, what does adding a third dimension to the gameplay do for the Mortal Kombat?
Basically, it allows you to reposition yourself, dodge attacks by, again...
bypass the guard of the enemy.
It's literally adding an extra dimension to the whole thing, basically.
Again, much like Soul Calibur and Tekken.
And as you can imagine, yeah, this can get very much exploited if not balanced out properly, because, suddenly dodging becomes a lot more easier. Just move up or down.
So how exploited is it? Is it like as bad as Tekken Force?
Okay, it all depends about the invincibility frames that you get in doing the act, and how much the enemy can catch you while you're performing the action,
There you go. We also another new mechanic that is fighting styles. Each character in the and this will be a trademark of the PS2 trilogy. Each character has free fighting styles. The first 2 involve different types of martial arts and moves, and the third style involves a weapon of some sort. So basically, unlike the 4th game where you pick up weapons from the ground, in here every single fighter has his own trademark weapon. In Raiden's case, his staff.
You gotta admit, this is very expansive gameplay. Not only do we get more characters, but you get more movement, and now different stances, which means that now you pretty much have to memorize 3 different styles of gameplay for each character, essentially.
Alright, so for this playthrough, I will be playing as Raiden for reasons that will become apparent in the beginning of the next game.
Actually, it's Raiden.
So yeah, this is actually a pretty interesting thing. Like, you can definitely tell that with this game, they were pretty much pulling all they could out of their bag of tricks for this next installment.
Well, yeah, the idea was exactly to do that. Ed Boon's idea was to reinvent the franchise gameplay-wise to make sure it actually, to make sure that the series did not stop, fall into irrelevance, basically.
I'll give him this. Like, this is definitely a ballsy installment. Again, let's not forget this installment literally starts with them killing off Liu Kang.
The idea was... Ed Boon's idea was that he wanted to mix things up and definitely do something that would definitely signify a new era, because as we're going to see in the next game, he actually has an idea for a next generation Liu Kang of sorts. There's also the fact... There's also the idea behind the fact that he really... well, look at this way, Jova. Like, the game at the time of its release was critically acclaimed, and it sold and was the highest-selling Mortal Kombat game in a long time, so it definitely worked for the time.
Okay. For as split as I am on the idea of killing Liu Kang, unlike a lot of other games that try and do quote-unquote ballsy or edgy things like killing off their main characters and expecting people to root for it, this one does have some
Is this a Terminator Dark Fate Subway?
I will argue it's not the same thing, because here's my take on the whole Liu Kang thing.
No, it's not as bad as Dark Fate.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah?
Here's my take on the whole Liu Kang thing. By the time Deadly Alliance came about, Liu Kang had been paraded as the Gary Stu hero of the franchise for way too long. So honestly, yeah, it was about time we let somebody else be the focus and have the spotlight on, because yeah, Liu Kang has had his day. Let's let somebody else be the focus for a change.
So when does Liu Kang come back then?
In the next game. Well, okay. Well, okay. To be fair, Dwips, he comes back as a zombie.
More specifically, a revenant.
Yeah, that happened.
This is also going to become a thing in the new timeline, the reboot timeline, specifically with 10. Basically, the idea here. Well, if it helps you, Dwips, the protagonist, the Cage family is basically going to become the protagonists, kind of the new timeline, and they're some of the best characters. So, anyway.
So Pedro.
Yes.
Despite what you said about Liu Kang, though, do you think killing him off was necessary, though? Like, okay, I get putting him out of the limelight. I guess the thing I'm more split on is, again, killing him to do it, like, and not even having him as a playable character, even, like,
Wait, do you think they should have gone the King of Fighters route, then?
Well, if we go the King of Fighters, well, you know what, that could have maybe worked. You know, like, well, maybe just, I don't know, have him retire or something, or...
No, because in King of Fighters... Originally, they were supposed to kill off Kyo in 97, but because people didn't like that, they're like, alright, fine, for 99, we'll have them be missing, but we'll also introduce a new protagonist, K-Dash, and we'll have two previous characters to be part of his team along with a new character. But they like, KO isn't the main character of King of Fighters. They do change protagonists, but he's still plot relevant. He's still the post.
I could see that.
I
guess the weird thing is, like, well, Liu Kang is pretty much gone, like, after his death. Like, they don't revive him like they revived Johnny Cage eventually. It's like, no, he's dead.
No, unlike what happened with Johnny Cage, there was no outcry at the time, believe it or not. Like, people didn't barely mind it. I didn't mind it because... I didn't mind because... I can see the purpose plot-wise. They want to really establish. They want to establish how absolutely threatening this alliance between Shang-Tsung and Quan-Chi is, and what better way to do it than the fact that both of them combined were able to take down Liu Kang. Now that immediately will establish them as a threat to be reckoned with.
And it's not like there's some new. It's not like they're this new villain suit. Like, oh, I'm gonna show how awesome my new villain is. No, I mean they are actually established threats and characters who probably have had time to learn from their mistakes or whatnot. So it does make sure that they would eventually get the one up on Liu Kang. Yeah.
I mean, Shang-Tsung. Look at it this way. Shang-Tsung. Oh, there you go. Test Your Might is back from the first game.
Yay! Come on, Pedro, press.
I think I've seen this bit in my PhD games.
Yes, it's in 9.
Where basically, okay, what my favorite bit how they do it in the future games is if you fail, you get shot.
Yeah.
Anyway, you were saying?
Like I said, no, like the Shang-Tsung. Remember, Shang-Tsung was not only the first villain of the franchise, and as the narrator said in the previous part, it has been his lifelong ambition to finally consume Liu Kang's soul. You know, because of their rivalry that they've had for a long time at this point. So to have Shang-Tsung finally take down Liu Kang, again, if you're a Shang-Tsung fan, cool for you. Definitely, and it serves as a nice way to show and like something that like and more. If there's one franchise where it definitely makes sense to have the villains win is in Mortal Kombat, because this is a franchise that's always been, you know, against the norm right from the very first game. So,
I guess from the get-go, people could probably say, "Oh, they killed Liu Kang." Well, gee, it's not like Shang-Tsung has died over and over. Again, like death is pretty cheap in the Mortal Kombat universe, so I guess, you know, with Liu Kang's
like how did he come back?
Basically, you mean Liu Kang?
I think he's talking about Shang-Tsung and the other villains.
Oh well, Shang-Tsung in the first game was actually not killed. he just retreated back, and then what happened was he apologized to Shao Kahn, and Shao Kahn he managed to convince Shao Kahn to give him a second chance, and as part of his new attempt to try to take over, Shao Kahn gave him back his youth, which is why he's young in the second game.
Even though at the end of arcade mode he actually explodes.
Remember, we didn't account. Remember, we didn't account for the first game being an amazing success. So
Then he definitely died in Mortal Kombat 2. That I'm sure of.
well, actually, no, he was in 3 as well. So
Yeah.
Well, yeah. But didn't have to do with like some mystical stuff going on that also allowed Johnny Cage to return from death as well.
probably. Well, no, according to Shang-Tsung's bio, he was just once again able to convince Shao Kahn to spare him because apparently Shao Kahn is the most gullible idiot ever.
No.
It's like-
Shang-Tsung is a snake and he's a master manipulator.
Well, yeah, true. That is true. In 4, I guess it's in 4 where you can at the very least say after 3, definitely. In 3, he definitely died considering he wasn't in 4. So.
Regardless, I mean, well, at this point in the universe, it's obvious that resurrections are a dime a dozen.
Yeah, they are. Well, they kind of have to because this is a fighting game. So if you want to include a beloved character you have,
an excuse.
yeah, you kind of have to have a universe like that if you're going to create a long series, a long-running series of fighting games.
My favorite of this kind of excuse comes in Injustice 2, where the whole reason the Joker is even in the game, aside from being playable, is essentially there's a bit of a sequence in the plot where Harley Quinn has an hallucination where she fights him, and that's it.
Yeah.
This is a really good-looking early PS2 game of us.
Yeah, it is.
Hey, this time it's used as a compliment.
Midway, well, at this point in time, Mortal Kombat was Midway's cash cow. No doubt about it.
Oh yeah.
So
It was the only thing they had. I mean, but that's the thing though. It says something that even with this, Midway still went bankrupt in 2009.
Well, maybe if they kept using Hydro Thunder, none of this would have happened.
Again.
Well, you don't remember Hydro Thunder?
Oh my god, that old thing?
Yeah. Where do you think the boat sections from All Stars vs. Transformers is from? Or
Good point. Yeah, I remember that now.
and Cruise in the USA. Although that's actually technically a Nintendo.
Actually, speaking of old Mortal Kombat games, I've got a question actually.
yes,
Yes.
Has Warner Brothers released any of the older games on like a collection?
only once in the PS3 and 360 with the Mortal Kombat Arcade with a K collection. Unfortunately, the Arcade collection was developed by a developer called Code Mystics, and the emulation wasn't very good. So you're still better off just emulating the game using MAME.
Actually,
Pedro, question.
Yes.
Are you going to do Mortal Kombat vs. DC Universe?
Yes, that's the end of my Mortal Kombat run. After that, I passed the baton on to 2. Yes.
Yeah, because it is canon.
Well, yeah. MK DC
talked about that.
versus DC is actually Mortal Kombat 8. That's the thing. It's considered.
Yes.
Technically it is the end of the classic Mortal Kombat series. So might as well.
That's why Mortal Kombat 9 was, well, called Mortal Kombat 9 at the time.
even though it's just Mortal Kombat.
See, the thing to answer your question, to further answer your question, Dwebs. Unfortunately, Dwebs, Warner Bros. Has been not very good about re-releasing the classic series. The PS2 trilogy has never gotten any kind of a release. Originally, Shaolin Monks was originally going to have had an HD remaster planned, but it got canned eventually, and that was about it. So the only thing we ever got was Arcade Collection on the PS3 and Xbox 360, and that was it. We included the 1,
Also-
2, and Ultimate 3.
Also, Pedro, you forgot that the arcade collection for PS3, Xbox 360, and PC was done also by Ocean. The guys who did the medieval remake and Yu-Gi-Oh! Legacy of the Duelist.
That's the thing, too. Yes, they're credited, but Code Mystics is also credited. I still had some people.
That's because, if I recall correctly, Ocean did the Xbox Live version.
Oh, okay. So basically, they had multiple developers for that, I guess.
regarding our Mortal Kombat runs, we're gonna technically consider Injustice Gods Among Us as part of that too.
Well, I'll let Teo handle those since he's the one who's more familiar with those. Basic Jova, as the old guard, I'll just handle the classic series. I'll let Teo handle that.
If you need a demonstration of how Suhao is just a terrible character overall, even playing as him is lame as shit.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, I remember. Even I remember that being infamous about him back in the day.
So Basic Jova being the old fan from back all the way to the early 90s, I'll play these classic games, whereas I'll let Teo handle those new MK games that I've heard about or some shit.
Speaking of, today is actually Marcos's birthday, so I gave him Mortal Kombat 9. Coincidentally, it's also it was the 10-year anniversary of Mortal Kombat 9, so it's like,
yes.
I totally planned that.
This is a new one, specific. So there's the Mortal Kombat symbol. So now test your sight, guys. So where is it?
Right.
You'd think being a guy riding would be able to sense the stuff better.
Yay.
But yeah, there you go.
I did it!
Yes, you did, Raiden. I love the dumbfounded look that characters give whenever they're trying to decide which one's right.
Alright, Drummond.
Anyway, just to give my 2 cents, since it was also asked, back in the day I didn't care much, mostly because I wasn't caring particularly for Liu Kang. I wasn't desiring his depth as a character, but I was more like, well, whatever, fine.
He'll be back.
Probably, that was my thought. I wasn't expecting them to keep him as a Revenant, more like a case similar to Johnny Cage, but I guess we stuck to their guns. And it's a contributing factor to showcase by the time of Armageddon, the story had become way too bloated for its own good, and it made sense for them to, apply the solid reboot afterward.
Oh no, the opening... The opening movie of Mortal Kombat Armageddon is so meta, it's hilarious.
Okay, not only that, but let's consider this though. The stories were weird in the sense where yes, you did have all these cutscenes, but what was actually canon or what was story wasn't always explained the best back in the day.
Yeah.
Now this would have been solved with something like, say, a campaign mode, but at the time, Mortal Kombat games didn't really have that.
It starts with the next one. The next game is
Deception.
Yeah, Deception was actually, which is the game after this, is the one that actually first implements Conquest. Well, technically, Conquest mode is already a thing in this game. The problem is that, as I'm going to demonstrate later, the Conquest mode of this game is very bare bones. It is just an overproduced fancy tutorial. So trust me, it's not worth it.
Deception is the one that starts to get an actual sort of story mode going on.
So starting with story mode, and then later we'll get perfected with Mortal Kombat 9, where instead of just picking one fighter and that's it, you have one canon story mode, and then you have non-canon tower endings as a way to keep the whole feel of the classics, basically.
I love how Dramin changes his mask between stances.
So here's the deal, essentially. With the earlier Mortal Kombat games, the story you would get would be by completing all the different arcade campaigns. But with later games, you would have one canon campaign, and the arcade modes, while still having their own stories, would be non-canon, essentially. This would also carry over into Injustice Gods Among Us as well.
It allows players to pick their favorite character and see their happily ever after ending. Even
with Injustice, it's even weirder, Jova, because there is also similar to Mortal Kombat, there is an actual comic book line, but the canonicity of events attached to that is questionable, because some events are set in stone, but then when the games roll around, some of these events kind of get ignored as a result. It's weird, honestly.
And it only got more confusing when Injustice 2 came out.
Anyway, get ready, Dej, and go.
Something wrong, Dej?
No, I just
it's just Injustice 2. It's like, that story is really frustrating.
Yeah. Okay, look. As somebody who liked Injustice 1 story, warts and all, I was disappointed with Injustice 2, which really dropped the ball.
That sucks because I'm cool with elaborating more on the other world, but the problem is you can tell that none of these people were ever heroes to begin with. So it's like, why should I care?
Okay,
I'm all for it's like, oh, what if heroes became bad? But it's like Superman being the guy who was raised by. If he was, someone pointed this out. If he was raised by anybody else besides the Kents, him being a jerk and whatnot, evil or misguided, would have made a hell of a lot more sense.
Oh boy, you gotta love how Jax brings his gun from special defenses.
Well,
Special forces.
yeah, special forces. Whatever. Fortunately, it's used in the proper ways. Go ahead, Jova.
But yeah, going back to what you were saying, Dej, in that regard, see, I was fine with it in Injustice because we still had the normal Superman to fall back onto. And you know what? I kind of get what they were going with the evil Superman. It was essentially what would happen if Kingdom Come ended with Superman pretty much going insane from the loss of his wife and unborn child and all that. So fair enough here and there. My issue's like, well, with Injustice 2, they had a chance to finally have the regime side redeem themselves in regards to it. They had that blatant chance, but they chose not to.
Well, at least partially, Jova. At least partially, Jova, because while some characters native to that universe actually do apply, actual good morality, like Firestorm and Blue Beetle, for example, the core one, as in Superman and Wonder Woman,
Oh my god, Wonder Woman is so
are
terrible.
still complete dicks. Well, I already mentioned a couple of times that I'm still convinced to this day that Regime Wonder Woman is under mind control by Cersei or someone else because it feels incredibly uncharacteristic for her behavior to be like that. Again, the only thing that makes it, less out of character than, say, All-Star Batman and Robin Wonder Woman is that the fact that she's not, shouting sperm bank at every single male character in the game.
Let me just talk about.
But otherwise, she might as well be the same.
So here's the thing.
Oh,
With Flashpoint, when all the characters were completely different, at least you could say that was a consequence of Barry screwing up the timeline. So it's all his fault and living with the consequences.
yeah, Moloch is kind of the Goro of this game in a certain way because he's he can't be thrown and he has quite the powerful physical attacks. However,
it reminds me of that one guy from King of Fighters.
Actually, it reminds me more of Saberwolf from Killer Instinct.
Yeah, the idea is that, remember, both Drummond and Moloch were the Oni that helped Quan-Chi escape from the Netherrealm.
And from Scorpion.
So now as a reward, Quan-Chi decided to have them be here so that they can feed on the blood of the contestants of the tournament. However, we just defeated them. There we go.
Bonk.
Flawless victory.
All right.
The coins with a K.
Yes, Moloch is defeated. Memory card. Don't you mean memory card with a K? Game. So yeah, now time to face the Deadly Alliance. First Quan-Chi.
Oh boy.
But first, time to test your might.
Again.
Mortal Kombat!
Come on, Pedro, there you go. Keep pressing.
Well, this is actually these mini games are actually not that hard to be honest with you.
Raiden was so close from dabbing.
So yeah, in the meantime, Quan-Chi got himself a somewhat kind of a new look by removing his armor. Now he's just kind of almost shirtless.
This will be the look that he will keep for most of these appearances.
Yeah.
Until the Scorpion movie.
Well, the Scorpion movie is, is treated again being the first, quote unquote, of that new particular timeline. It makes sense that Quan-Chi is still mostly clothed.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, one thing that I will mention about this game, and we'll see in the next part, Mortal Kombat Alliance is definitely the return to form that the series needed at the time, definitely. However, if there's one aspect in this game that definitely dropped the ball, is the fatalities. Mortal Kombat Alliance has quite possibly the lamest fatalities in the entire series.
Pretty much, yeah,
Alright,
Vertical Crane, yes. Oh god, my memory is so rusty. Is this one or Deception that also introduces the Arakiri?
No, it's Deception that introduces that.
Okay.
I like the Arakiri. The Arakiri is actually a really cool idea, I will argue. Like, it allows you to steal the satisfaction from your opponent of giving you applying a fatality on you. That's
The thing is that most of them are kind of lame in execution. Again, we'll see.
They
this
are.
time.
They are. Like the Arakiris are not like the super best, but I like the idea. I feel like we should have kept the idea at least. Like try to do, if we look at this way too. The first Mortal Kombat game had lame fatalities, like the Liu Kang's fatality. I mean, like Arakiri is a really cool idea, and I really wish they would have kept it personally. God damn it. And yes, Quan-Chi. Oh, that's the thing too. Just earlier, I was recording Armageddon's Conquest mode, and I was fighting Sub-Zero. Sub-Zero is annoying as fuck in Armageddon because he's one of those fuckers who is constantly blocking and never stops blocking. You know?
There we go.
There we are. Alright, now time to face the sorcerer himself, Shang-Tsung.
Kind of missed the tower.
Well, if it helps with Dibs, the towers will be back in Mortal Kombat 9. Well, actually, no, Deception technically... Well, in Deception it's not really a tower, but you are climbing a mountain. I don't know if that works for you.
I gotta love how Shang-Tsung is holding the sword. He looks very awkward.
It's like this, Wibs. In this game, we're going from place to place. In Deception, we're climbing a mountain. In Armageddon, we're climbing a pyramid. And in 9, they bring back the towers.
10 also introduced the seasonal towers. Where you get surprise elements depending on the festivity that is associated with it.
And yes, Shang-Tsung's arena is actually my favorite because it's the Chamber of Souls. In fact, this is where the next game begins, story-wise. So keep this in mind for when we do Deception, because yeah, let's just say that the opening movie of Deception really shows why I decided to pick Raiden. Because yeah, So I actually wish they could have had an endurance match with both members of the Alliance. That would have been an interesting thing to have. Yes, Dwips?
So from what I understand, this was the last game that Dan Forden was a regular composer on.
I think so.
Because in the other games, I think he took more of a backseat role.
Yeah, he still works in Mortal Kombat. He's kind of like he's kind of like Mortal Kombat's Koji Kondo at this point. Like, as in, he doesn't do that much composing anymore, but he's still there overseeing things, making sure the composers are doing things properly and all that shit.
Okay.
And yeah, Shang-Tsung has an ability which he steals a bit of my soul to heal his own health.
But of course. So Pedro,
And then I beat him with a stick.
So Pedro, who is your favorite weapon stance of all the characters in this game?
Quan-Chi's.
Ah, yeah, the broadswords.
Dual wield.
And I am there you go. I am the champion.
Season's greetings from Quan-Chi and Shang-Tsung.
You are the champion. Congratulations, you are the champion of the 5th tournament.
So, what's the canon story? Who won?
Nobody did, but we'll get to that. Anyway, Raiden's ending.
Once again, the threat to Earthrealm has been vanquished. The deadly alliance is no more.
No thanks to the Elder Gods.
In the future, I can
Well, too. When have the Elder Gods ever done anything for us?
They did something in Mortal Kombat 2, the movie.
True.
That's the thing that's another thing that movie got wrong.
Optimistic as ever, are we?
No, wait. The Elder God said to.
I don't know, Dwebs. You call him pessimistic. I call him realistic because trust me, the Mortal Kombat universe is fucking full of assholes. So no, it makes sense that he would take this approach. So there you go. Okay, so basically Raiden told the other gods, okay, fuck you. You guys never help us, so fuck off. I'm not gonna be another god. I'm just gonna stay here as the god of thunder among my friends. So fuck off.
Rough Mike. Also, hi, Quan-Chi.
Yes.
I see he's practicing for his starring role in the last Airbender movie.
I really,
he's Matt Murdock.
I
This is essentially the team flexing the fact that they could mocap this.
I really love Raiden's voice in this game. In fact, Raiden is the one that narrates all of the endings, so pretty cool. So there you go. We'll save again final thoughts for later because we haven't actually properly seen all the endings or anything. So yeah, motion capture and animation. John Vogel, of course, and Carlos Pazina, of course, gotta have those. John Vogel and Carlos Pazina are still working on the series to this day. They've remained faithful to John Vogel in particular has been writing the stories for every single Mortal Kombat game, starting with 5. This one. Not the scripts. I know that you're gonna bring up the script writer's tale, but the stories themselves, according to the credits, have been by John Vogel. He basically there you go, story and conquest missions, John Vogel, there we go. John basically comes up, together with Pezina and other people, comes up with the story, and then he gets some other people to write the scripts. Opening FMV, made by these guys.
Chad Green.
Yes, Chad Green. And Jeff Baker. And Brian Wright, Alan Cruz, animation. Additional graphics, and yeah, it seems like John Vogel kinda stopped doing graphics by this point, because remember he did the background graphics for the first
one take,
Carlos Pazina is awesome, but yeah, it seems like at this point in the games, John Vogel transitioned from doing graphics to doing motion capture, because that's what he's mostly credited in here. Motion capture and animation, and of course the story. He also did, if I remember correctly, he also did some kind of motion capture for Injustice, like. Okay, and you know what? I'm starting to realize something. Midway looked at this ending credits sequence and thought, you know what? We've got something here. Let's make this a thing in Armageddon instead of actual proper endings. But we'll get to that.
Not a fan.
Let's just say, Jova, they cheaped out on the endings of Mortal Kombat Armageddon.
I get the idea that having so many characters, they had to cut corners in something.
Yeah. Because Armageddon still has the conquest mode, so like there was only so much they could do, I guess. There you go. And Sal DeVita still gets special thanks. That's nice.
Basically, Java, it's kind of like Soul Calibur 5, where the story mode is there, but as a sacrifice, the arcade mode endings are almost non-existent.
Hold on. We also want to thank all our friends and family who put up with the many late nights and weekends. That's nice.
Oh, Crunch! That's all.
That's so for those who forgot.
Oh man, wait till you hear the development story of Mortal Kombat 11.
For those who forgot, Sal DeVita was the guy who played Baraka in Mortal Kombat 2. And he still did some mocap for the character for quite a while. Okay, so before we finish this part, let's take a look at this conquest thing that they've got here. Let's see what this is.
It is time, young warrior, for you to begin your worldly training.
Long ago, the four nations lived in peace and harmony.
Yeah, basically. Come on, game.
Oh my god, this is Avatar. No!
So Avatar ripped this off. 0 out of 10. Anyway, the path of every warrior is a humble beginning, and the road to one's destiny. Blah blah blah. Each of last legends brings him closer to enlightenment. Blah 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 blah. Generic dialogue. Could you be a bit more generic, please? By completing these many journeys to come, you have gained the strength, speed, agility, and wisdom to master. Blah 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 blah. So what does this translate out to? A very in-depth, specific tutorial. Meaning, there you go. A tutorial. This would be something that Mortal Kombat 9 would do a lot better. Fortunately, but for now we're just going to do this. Okay, tapping your control pad towards or away from your opponent will guide your movements, as you'll see. Step toward the ninja 3 times. Then, you mean Scorpion?
Yeah, he has a name, It's very rude.
So yeah, that's basically it. The Conquest mode is just a tutorial for the game's mechanics. And they tried to put in all this bullshit about enlightenment and mastery of the elements and all that shit, but nobody gives a crap because...
Very
Tutorial.
Well, Dwibs, there technically is something else other than tutorial stuff added here, hence why they call it Conquest.
It's like it's like Ed Boon had 2 ideas for tutorials, both of them in it.
That's just one... That is true, Jova. There's just one problem. Nobody cares! Nobody cares, Jova.
Yeah, pretty much.
Learn and forget. Make the technique a part of your blah blah blah. I don't care. Hey, Borracho.
Also, I'm sorry.
Imagine people in this series. Quan-Chi, in order to defeat your enemy, you must blah 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 blah. Got it?
Alright, now it shows you the 4 specific moves with all the face buttons. And that's it. This is where I kind of stopped recording because, you know what, you get the point, right? It's really hard to care about Conquest mode because it stands for super... Don't get me wrong, it's for beginners who have never played Mortal Kombat before, this is useful. I just wish they would... But Mortal Kombat 9 would do this kind of thing a lot better.
Wait, I missed something in that bit. Can we start again?
No.
Anyway, everybody, tune in next time for the extras part where we'll see the rest of the endings, awesome super extra videos, and we'll also take a look at behind the scenes stuff because this is actually the first Mortal Kombat game to have proper behind the scenes videos. That should be fun. See you guys.
Yeah.